It's October, and that means that this year's Scream Fortress event in TF2 is now live. Included with the Halloween event that automatically activates itself during October, we have some new stuff. These things are 4 new maps that won't be playable after the event ends, and 2 of them being essentially reskins of existing maps, 28 cosmetics, almost all of which are incredibly ugly and given a restriction for the first time in ages, 15 war paints that currently have a broken preview on the TF2 wiki, a few unusual effects for both hats and taunts that do actually include some decent looking effects, and a new set of contracts, with the word new being only technically true. In reality, this is the 4th year without any innovation in Scream Fortress. The 4th year where Valve has followed their formulaic update procedure of adding fake content and then dipping out. It's getting hard to enjoy these mini content packs. They don't really add anything to the game except more awful cosmetics. The other content is either so obscure that it won't be seen by the player like the unusual effects, or temporary and without much innovation like the maps. The last major Scream Fortress event was in 2015, and even then, the 2015 Scream Fortress was considered lacking compared to the previous events. Now, since 2016, we've basically been given a yearly rehash of content that isn't even that good. Today I'll be discussing how Scream Fortress used to be, where it peaked, and when it fell. The first Halloween event in Team Fortress 2 took place in 2009. This technically wasn't a Scream Fortress update, it's not even anywhere in the name, but it was the catalyst that started Team Fortress 2's amazing Halloween events. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you and pretend that it added a lot of things, but it sure innovated with the game. Halloween mode itself is a huge addition compared to the other events, mostly due to it being an actual gameplay change rather than adding on top of a pile of content that already exists. But the content itself that was added was legendary. Harvest and its Halloween version, and the Gibbous. I'd take something like this over 20 to 30 stupid meme cosmetics any day. The next year, we saw the first real Scream Fortress update, and it was huge. New maps, new achievements, Halloween gifts, 2 new weapons, new cosmetics, the Noisemaker, description tags, and gift wraps, a kinda stupid taunt, and the game's first boss, the Horseless Headless Horseman. To say this update had a lot of content would be an understatement. It may not be the biggest content drop the game has seen, but especially compared to these days, it could feel like players back in 2010 were living in luxury. The last time we saw new weapons in this game was 2017. It'd be hard to expect a Halloween update adding anything like that. 2010 established that the Halloween events would be a yearly thing, so expectedly, next year we got another one. The Very Scary Halloween Special. This had pretty much the same amount of content. There were 2 new weapon reskins, a whole bunch of cosmetics and costume sets, a new boss, and another map. Also 2 achievements that honestly aren't really that important. The only thing added here that wasn't done last year were the unusual effects, one even becoming a favorite among players, Cloudy Moon. Players were expecting more bosses, more fun maps, more weird weapon reskins, and of course, more cosmetics. Did 2012 deliver? Of course it did. Erasmus, Ghost Fort, Ghost Town, the Voodoo Curse Souls with more cosmetics on top of them, the best weapon reskin in the game, and Halloween spells. Some of you may not know what Halloween spells are, and there's a very good reason for that I'll discuss later, but they were awesome. I never personally got any myself, but Halloween spells were pretty much the ultimate way to personalize your weapons and cosmetics at the time. Unique rocket trails, flames, stickies, paints, footprints, and voice effects. Buying Stranges didn't show you stuff this cool. Oh yeah, there were also unusual effects too, Harvest Moon and its counterpart being favorites of mine. Now I have one question for you. Could 2013 top this? If you were thinking of things from a modern lens, you'd probably think not. Things have to go downhill from here, right? You'd be surprised. Scream Fortress 2013 introduced some of the most defining features for the Halloween mode, added one of the best maps for the event, which also introduced one of the coolest locations in the event, added new items, over 100 cosmetics, new achievements, and new unusual effects. This was not it. Remember how I just said it added defining features? Scream Fortress 2013 is what added spells to the game. I'm talking about the map pickups that allow you to do weird and wacky things with a spellbook. This feature has given so much personality to TF2 TF2's Halloween events that it's frequently abused as a way to make boring Halloween maps fun. Not everything in the update was perfect, but the sheer volume of content that was added and how fun everything was to witness in real time puts it in the game's history books as one of the best updates of all time. If I want to be completely honest and objective, this was probably the peak of Scream Fortress, but my heart will always belong to Scream Fortress 2014. Compared to the last update, Scream Fortress 2014 didn't add a lot of content, but what it did add was very, very high quality. I'm talking mostly about the map added, the Carnival of Carnage. It may be a reskin of Doomsday, but it's pretty much the best reskin you could make for a map. Mini games, the weird hammer that kills you when you don't want it to, map curses, bonus ducks, and more. TF2 is partly known for its endless replayability, and I think this is the most replayable map in the game. There were other things added to the update, around half the cosmetics the last event received, but I don't think those were what most people cared about. Valve really went all out with the map they added this year, so what would happen next year? I think Scream Fortress 2015 was the beginning of the end. It wasn't a bad update, but it was a sign of things to come. We got our standard content like the unusual effects, maps, cosmetics, and even some taunts this year, but what it lacked was innovation. Scream Fortress historically had the most far out content in the game. You wouldn't find NPC bosses or maps with minigames in any other event during the year, but this year didn't add anything like that. There were 5 maps, but all but one played 2 normally, and the one that didn't was a manpower map. There were 19 cosmetics, but none of them felt like they fit with the wacky nature of Halloween. The only unique thing I felt this update introduced was the Soul Gargoyle, but it had no impact on the gameplay, and in fact barely does anything at all. If anything, it's annoying, because it introduced the irritating soul drain effect that happens when you kill anyone during Halloween. 2015 also did something irredeemable. It killed off item spells. Not only did none drop this year, but any you may have had were basically unusable. 2015 may have been the beginning of the end, but I think we should go to the last year, where it transitioned not just halfway to the end, but all the way there in an instant. Scream Fortress died in 2016. I don't care if anyone thinks otherwise, but this was when the rehashing of content reached an insufferable level, when how formulaic the Halloween event was becoming caused actual fatigue for me. This year, and pretty much every year after, we only got normal content. By this I mean community content that was already known to be added. Maps, taunts, cosmetics, and unusual effects, and nothing more. No cool Valve maps, no gameplay additions like spells, no bosses, nothing to really move the event forward. In 2020, we've had to deal with this for 4 years. The same kind of stuff added on a yearly basis ad nauseum. The worst part about this to me is how receptive the community seems to be to these events. People are fine with mediocre content being added just because it's content, and I feel that creates a toxic atmosphere where Valve thinks it's acceptable to do the bare minimum and nothing more. I told myself I'd try to stay to just Halloween, but this is a trend that has continued since 2016 for all updates. Look at any update history chart for this game, and you see that after 2015, we don't really get much of note. There's Meet Your Match, one of the worst updates in this game's history, and Jungle Inferno, an aggressively mediocre update. The remaining Scream Fortress and Smithsmith updates have only added what they need to, so I think I should cap this video off with one question. Is this it? See you later.